been 10 years. It's time to acknowledge that everything has failed, but that not everything has been tried. And there are steps that remain to be taken. We need to not treat this as a closed case. This case needs to be solved. We need to do everything we can. I always say about MH370, the closer you look, the weirder it gets. So if you want a simple explanation, I say look closer.
Was it a failure? Was it a failure by the ATSB, the original search?
Well, it certainly failed to find the aircraft. So, it certainly wasn't a success by that definition.
So you've been handed the greatest aviation mystery of all time. Why not just do another search?
Well, look, I think that the reality in these things is that a lot of effort was spent at the time, a lot of money was spent, a lot of personnel from around the globe, and it was unsuccessful. Now, in the event of new and credible evidence, then potentially it's reopened. That trigger point hasn't been reached at this point in time.
Let's, crystal ball, if the wreckage is found, who has ownership of MH370 then?
Well, that would go back to the state of registry, which is Malaysia, and then I have no doubt Australia would stand by to assist, depending on what that assistance may be at the time.
In the 10 years since MH370 disappeared, there's been a change of government in Malaysia. But just like the previous administration, the current ruling party shows no interest in conducting another search.
I think the Malaysians want something really compelling.
Evidence, you mean?
Yeah,
beforehand?
new. I mean, I think the wording that was released as the search wound down was new and compelling.
You need to go out there to find that.
Yeah,
though,
we
don't
need to
you?
go out there to find it. I think that's very true. But I think what we have at the moment is just a reinterpretation of pre-existing data. So it technically isn't new. And so depending on how the Malaysians seek to interpret that phrase, there's a chance that we might not ever have approval from them to go back out there. But then the question becomes, do we need approval from the Malaysians to go back out there? I think the answer to that is probably. It would be better if you did, but ultimately if they're unwilling to allow the search to continue or to support another search, then I think we go without it.
The Australians mean?
I don't think there's any will among the Australian government to go back out there.
But at the Australian Transport Safety Bureau, Angus Mitchell remains resolute.
But at the moment, we've exhausted our resources based on what we know, and until that changes, well then, I guess that's where we are today.
But there is still a willingness, even though it's on ice.
Well, there's always a willingness, but it's also to understand the complexities we're asked to do it in.
If there is anything down there, we will find it. We owe it to the families of those people to do no less.
Now, you remember back in the day, the government promised we will not stop until we find this plane. Well, they didn't find the plane, and they did stop. And I'm saying there's still stuff left to do. Here's your marching orders. Please go do this.
How much of this should be on the Malaysians, though, and not the Australians to go out and do another search, or even the Chinese for that matter?
To be clear, I'm not saying they should go do another search. Just do us a solid and explain to us where the plane could be, all of the possibilities where the plane could be, even the ones that you excluded going in. Because, very famously, an Australian minister said, we have defined the search area that encompasses 97% probability for this plane went. They searched that area, it wasn't there, they doubled it again. Their math was wrong. Something about their approach was wrong. So they need to figure out, they need to explain where we went wrong. They've never done that.